Hello, somebody. Today, we're going to rank the top categories that allow you to have a successful marriage. So you got my boy Jay here, you got Mr. Mafuchi, but before we get into it, as always, it always helps us if you like and subscribe, especially if you make it all the way through. But just remember that, somebodies. So, without further ado, let's jump into it. Now, Jay, the first one is going to be the hot topic, which is let's talk about sex. Where are we ranking sex? Now, for me, I've spoken about sex in a couple of episodes to where, surprisingly enough, sex I don't rank the highest in my relationship. I think because my wife and I, at the very beginning, it was all nice, hot, and spicy. We were having a lot of it. But after a while, I'm 13 years in this marriage, I'm starting to realize that it's more about the connection with my wife. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoy sex with my wife, but it's not as important. So when it comes to sex, I'm gonna put it right there at a B. I'm sure a couple people are gonna be surprised. I'm sure Jay's shaking his head, but yeah, I'm putting sex at a B.
All right, this is just for me, okay? So, depending on the couple, everyone's level for sex is different. Some people want it all the time, some don't, right? So for me, because I showed my wife my list, right? So I was like, this is what it ranks for me. Mine is the S tier, right? I find it very important. And I'm not saying that I need to have it all the time, but I find it, for me, it's very important. And I believe I heard on a show or a podcast or something somewhere where that's a way men show their love for their woman and their spouse. So for me, that's the top tier for me. I was very surprised with Mafuchi that it's at a B. I thought it might be like a C or lower since he doesn't care about it anymore, or as much as he used to. Whatever the case may be for him, right? Mine's is top tier, number one. All right, for me, trust is an A. I need to have complete trust in my partner. And whenever you're in any type of relationship, you're going to need that trust. Because once trust is broken, it's hard to get it back. So for me, trust has to be A for me.
All right, well, I'm all about trust now. So I'm going to put that at the highest tier, which is S. And here's why. Because spoken in one of the episodes we had about cheating, and believe it or not, there was a situation between my wife and I. It was emotional. It wasn't physical, somebody's, okay? If you're hearing this for the first time. But my wife did have an emotional connection with somebody after I did something, looking at a photo of one of her friends. So that happened, and that did break trust. So after that situation, I realized how important trust really is. So for that reason, it is the S tier for me. I need to be able to trust my partner. It's necessary. I need that. Now with this, I'm sure if you're like Jay over there, he doesn't really believe in all this mumbo jumbo, zodiac signs, the compatibility, but I do. I think there is something to the fact that each person has their own personality, and now it's gauged on your zodiac sign. You have to read it. I grew up with it. My mom instilled that in me, that hey, there is something to this other than coincidence. So, compatibility, my wife and I, we are not perfectly compatible. In fact, we are polar opposites. But with that, it's supposed to somewhat balance each other out. It's a rough road. It is possible, but sometimes it could be a grind, and it is work. But it is possible. So with that, I will place zodiac sign compatibility at an A tier. That's where I leave it.
All right, so as Mafuchi stated, I don't really care for zodiac sign type of thing, especially if you've seen the episode about zodiac signs on our channel. For me, it's going to be at the very bottom. It's an F. It's like ridiculous, right? So I remember when we did the research for our video, I'm an Aries, my wife is a Taurus. Now, depending on where you're looking at, one thing it'll say you're compatible, the next one says you're not compatible. So I take no stock in that at all. My wife and I are opposites. There's some things we agree on, things we don't agree on. But I think that's what makes the relationship beautiful, because you're not the same person. You don't guys have the same interests like that. So for me, zodiac sign, it is F. It's not important at all.
Now, this is absolutely top notch for me. I feel, an A type of personality. I can pretty much talk to anyone. I can talk to the camera, not talk to the camera. I can talk to myself. I am just all about personality. It's great that I have a group of friends, even Jay, that have a good personality that I can just vibe with. I can be myself. So, with a partner, I've spoken about this with my wife and about my wife that sometimes I treat her as a friend and we're not friends per se. So I can take a joke a little too far. I can take my personality and I can cross a line that she's not ready for because she's just my wife. So that's not to say my wife doesn't have a good personality. It's fine, but it's just not the same as mine. So I place personality for me at an S tier. I need to be able to laugh, to be able to smile, crack jokes with my partner. That is who I am, and I just need to continue to be that for my marriage. So, S tier for me.
All right, for me, personality is going to be a B on my scale. So, I'm not much of a social type of person. I'm very much of an introvert. So, I know my cousin, who I told her when I was doing this channel, she was like, she's very surprised I'm doing something like this. So, she gives me a lot of props and encouragement for doing something like this, put myself out there and stuff like that. So, personality, I'm going to give it a B. And I know when I met Mafuchi, I was like, yeah, what is going on here? We had one thing in common, and then I kind of just like helped our relationship grow as far as being friends. But I was like, yeah, I'm just here to get my class A, pay my bills, and keep it pushing, right? I wasn't there to make friends or anything like that. I'm about my business, right? But yeah, personality, like my wife and I, there are certain things like we vibe on as far as personality wise, but other than that, it's more of like, I find this interesting, she does not. I try to push this on her and she is like, no, and she'll do the same thing. Certain things I'm more easier to gravitate towards than she is for my stuff. But yeah, personality is not a big deal for me, as long as you're not a terrible person, as long as we can vibe, get along, have a good conversation, have fun. That's what I'm about. But it takes a lot for me to open up to someone. So once that happens, it's all gravy from there. All right, so for me, communication is going to be at an A for me, A tier for me, right? So, and like even doing this channel, like I realized certain things about my wife and I where we weren't on a certain level of communication just because it's something we never discussed before. And by doing this channel, that kind of brought up a conversation. I didn't know how she felt about certain things. So communication is very key. Because I know there's times where my wife and I, we've had miscommunications because either I didn't vocalize something or she didn't vocalize something, or I said something, I didn't say it in a way where she thought it was positive or she took it a certain way. So that just helped me realize, okay, when we're communicating, let's communicate where it's like, okay, I'm saying this, I mean it this way, how did you receive it, type of thing. So communication is very big for me. So if you don't have the proper communication skills with your partner, you guys have to know each other's communication styles. So I'm going to say that's very important for me. That should be very important for anyone who is in a relationship, where you got to be able to communicate properly and just understanding when someone's saying what they actually mean.
I think I'm gonna echo some of what Jay said. Because of this channel, I have a firm grasp as to how important communication really is. I see Jay always talking about not just communication, effective communication with his wife. And I've said before, I'm not the best listener. So I always felt, okay, I think I somewhat understood. Let me move forward. And it wasn't exactly what that was. And I got in trouble, of course, and rightly so. So communication, effective communication. I think this is the first time Jay and I agree. I'm going to put that right at an A, because it is important to be able to talk to one another and understand each other. So because I grew up with a family where we just read each other's minds and we kind of figured we knew what we wanted, the communication, like verbal communication, was all new to me. So that's why I didn't think it was as important, but it is. So A tier for me, just like with Jay. Friendship. The one thing that I will say Jay has over me, because he married his best friend. And that is something that I mentioned on the show that I do envy, and I understand now because my wife and I, like I mentioned, we're not friends. And this is also a topic that we've spoken about on our channel, and any of the episodes we speak of, they'll be in the description down below. So go ahead and take a gander afterwards. But after 13 years of marriage, I truly wish I did marry my friend. So I'm going to put friendship at an S tier because I feel this is probably what you want in your marriage. You make friends with your partner, and then the bonus is now you get to kiss her. And you still get to be yourself because you grew up knowing each other. So for me, at this point in my marriage, understanding that it is important, and I could always be myself with my friends. So S tier for me on friendship.
All right, for me, friendship is at an A tier for me. It's going to be an A. So, just because growing up, I'm very quiet and shy. So, if I became friends with someone, I thought it was like, okay, we really vibe on a certain level or have something, a lot of things in common. And with my wife and I, just as we've gotten to know each other over the years, we don't have a lot in common. I just felt it was just something special about her. Whereas like at the time I didn't know, but it was my spirit was like, okay, pay attention. This is who you're going to be with. Not knowing at the time, because I was only 18 at the time. So friendship is very important because when you're friends with your spouse, everything just enhances that much more when you're already friends, already at a good communication level. Like everything it just enhances. It's like kind of hard to explain for me just because when my wife and I, like when say I'm out at work, when I'm not working from home, it's like I can't wait to come home and just speak to my wife and just have something to do, catch up on the show, talk about what we're going to do as far as vacations, anything like that. So I feel friendship is very important. It should be one of the top tiers. All right, so ring size, I'm gonna give it an F, right? Hear me out. So it really depends, because this is one thing I learned when my wife and I were doing the process of getting a ring, talking about getting married, right? I had a ring in mind that I thought she would like, right? Wasn't too small, wasn't too big, just nice size, right? I showed it to her. She was not having it. She didn't like it. It wasn't her style. And I was like, interesting. And that's when I knew right then my wife was different. She's not like every other woman. She's very unique and particular about what she likes and what she don't like. So ring size didn't matter for her. I was like, oh, okay, it's cool for me. But I did end up liking the ring she picked out just because it was an engagement ring and it also came with a band that matches in the ring. So I was like, all right, cool. You pick it, you like it, cool. So it all depends of what it is that you like, and that's something that should be discussed as well.
Ring size, I'm almost there with Jay. I'm gonna put it at D because you do need some kind of ring, okay? I'm not gonna say it has to be the most expensive or the cheapest either. Hell, if you find a woman that's okay with a cubic zirconia, which is fake for everybody else that don't know what that means, then you found a winner. Because it's about what it represents. It's about you two wanting to unionize and come together. But the ring is the symbol, of course. So, yeah, a D. It's all about what's behind it. It's all about really you and your partner. But if you make it a couple years, like Jay and I, we've gone past 10 years. We're reaching that 15. Maybe at some point you upgrade if that still kind of matters. But otherwise, yeah. D tier, it's about you two, it's about the love.
I wanted to add something on to this extra, like there's patience, also grace. Patience / grace, right? So for grace is more like if you don't know what someone is going through, they could be having a hard time, something like that, just give them some grace. It's like, okay, you don't know what they're going through, maybe they're having a hard time at the moment, right? So in marriage, there's going to be times where you have to be patient, and anyone who knows me knows I'm not a patient person, right? So, but grace, that's something I look at where it's like, okay, if someone's having a bad time, having a hard time, whatever the case may be, right? don't jump down their throat. Don't jump to conclusion because you don't know what they're going through. So same thing within marriage. Your spouse can be having a bad day. You don't know what's going on. They could have went to the doctor, heard some bad news, whatever like that, right? But they're not ready to share it. So just give them grace, and whenever they're ready to come to you, they're ready to come to you. But yeah, so for patience, you're going to need it because most likely you and your spouse are not going to think the same on everything. So you're going to have to be patient about what the person is talking about, and the same vice versa on your end as well, because you never know what someone is going through. And when you have kids, you definitely need patience. So, and grace as well with the kids. So for me, patience/grace for me is going to be at a tier it's going to be B for me. It's going to be at a B tier for me.
Now, somebody's just like I said, my wife and I are complete opposites, and I have all the patience and the grace. My wife does not. And I think more so, like Jay said, with the kids, when I come home from work, I have to realize she's a stay-at-home mother and she's been with the kids the whole time. So if her patience has wore down to where she may not have as much for me, I have to try to understand that. With patience and grace with each other, it's very important. You don't know what you've gone through. So I'm going to place this about a B. I'm going to put it at a B tier because I think it's important. Now, another important issue, money. I'm sure you don't want to be poor growing up and moving with your partner. At the same time, you don't have to be rich, all right? So if you two are working class, just like my wife and I were when we were dating, until our children came around, but I'm the one that works, and money is important, believe it or not. People want to say, oh no, it's about love, it's about you two. Okay, great. But do you want to live in a cardboard box? Is it going to be the best cardboard box you ever lived in? You need to have a little money, okay? Especially if you're going to have family. So, a job with good money, I'm going to place that in A tier because it is essential. People don't want to say it is. It is. I'm not saying be wealthy, be filthy rich, okay? Money is important to a point. Is it more important than love? Hey, depends on the couple. But yeah, A tier for me.
All right, so for money for me, I'm gonna put down a tier B. It's gonna be a B tier for me. So just living life, everyone's not gonna be rich, right? If God blesses you with money, great. But they call it the 1%ers for a reason. So I don't think money is like extremely important, but it is important. You gotta know how to do your finances. You gotta know how to teach your kids, if you wanna have kids, about their finances as well. Because I know just in my community, we're not taught that, right? There's things I've learned just a few years ago that I didn't learn in school, which I hate how they don't do that in school. But that's a whole other thing, and that's a racial thing. But whatever, right? So money is important, and I can't have it at the top because I don't want to be seen like I'm worshiping money. But it's important. I believe you're going to be taken care of. So money's not the end all be all thing. No, I don't want to be living on the street, anything like that. But it is important as far as like just knowing how to do it, how to handle it, what to put your money in, what not to put your money in, not to waste your money on anything, stuff like that. So it's like saying like, if you do right, by someone, it'll come back around to you. For money, it's like, don't treat it like it's a god or anything. Use it as a tool. Use it as a tool to prepare yourself to what you want as far as a house, car, college tuition for your kids, stuff like that. So compromise for me is going to be A tier for me, compromise. Just because as a man, we don't get what we want anyway most of the time, right? So we're lucky if we get what we want. Our wives will throw us a bone eventually. But yeah, compromise is very important, especially in the marriage, because you're not going to see eye to eye on everything. So it's almost like you got to pick your spots of what you want, what you really don't want type of thing. Because I know there's, like I said it before, like my wife and I wanted to get something in the backyard, done, right? I wanted to get a putting green in the backyard, right? We were already getting some stuff done to the front yard. I was like, hey, it only costs X amount of dollars if we add it here, or we can do this later on for this amount of money. She was like, I know you want it, so let's go ahead and just get it all. I said, cool, right? So stuff like that, because I don't ask for much. You know, I don't ask for much. So I'm a basic person. So in that aspect, that was a cool compromise. Like for vacations and stuff like that, I'm like, I only want to go to a few places. Outside of that, you can pick where you want to go. You can plan the activities, stuff like that. I'm like, hey, that's your thing. Go and handle it. So you got to know how you guys work and what's really important to each individual person. So that's where compromise comes in.
Well, some buddies, take a counter because this is going to be 2 for 2 that Jay and I agree. I also will put it on A tier with compromise, and also echoing the fact that yes, as men, we're not going to get as much as the women, okay? We say compromise is equal, but if you've been married for as long as Jay and I have, you know that's not the case. It's just nice to say. But I will say this for me, also echoing Jay, I'm very frugal. My wife and my kids want more stuff than I do. I rarely want stuff, but when I do get something, it's a big purchase. And since I've built up enough time that I have not wanted anything, hey, I'm gonna get it. So yeah, compromise, Jay and I, we're at an A tier. Now, we do have to know somebody's that when we marry another person, we're also marrying into their family. And it would be nice if you also are compatible with them too. Hopefully, you've spent enough time with your partner before getting married to kind of figure out, hey, are we cool with each other? My wife's family and I, yeah, we were very compatible. They pretty much loved me right from the start. So that did work out, and that does help. So on the other end, my family wasn't too crazy about my wife. They needed to really feel her out for a long time, and even with that, it didn't pan out. So I am going to place this at an S tier because for me, I've seen both sides of having the compatibility and not. So I would rather have it, and it's much easier. So S tier for me.
All right, for me, I put it family compatibility. I put that at a B tier for me. Do I think it's important? Yes. Do I expect anything? I always have low expectations, just because growing up, what you see on TV and in movies, and what you probably see in your families, where usually you don't get along with your in-laws. So that was my expectations if I ever got married. Like, I probably won't like my in-laws. They probably won't like me. And if you know me, I don't care if you like me or not. So you can go kick rocks with that. But luckily for me, I do like my in-laws, and my family likes my wife. And if they didn't like her, they wouldn't tell me because they know what's going to happen. So I think it's important, but for most families, depending on how close-knit you are, you're not going to see them except for on holidays. And the older you get, the less you really do see your family, unless you're really a close-knit family or you live close by. So for me, it's going to be a B tier. All right, alone time, I put it at a C. I'm surprised too, people, whoever know me. Yeah, C, I feel, for me, I don't do much by myself. I will either play my PS5, watch Bridgerton, watch something sports related, mostly football. Yeah, or work out. I don't do much by myself. You know, when you have kids, they're always around. Granted, they're on devices, but they're always around. And my wife, I like to give her space where she can do her thing. But I don't need a lot of alone time, you know, so I would like to do a few things. And that's about it. You know, it's healthier for your relationship where you're not spending all your time together, where you do need some alone time. Give time to miss each other, but for me, it's a C tier.
Now, one thing for sure, my wife told me from the very beginning that she is a person that needs her alone time. And I didn't understand at first because you get married to someone because you want to be with them. And I guess that for me meant at all times. But after so many years of marriage, I finally understand because I kind of like my alone time too. And because I'm a truck driver, my job is to go and be alone. So I guess I take it for granted. So I place this on a B tier because I see it more as when my wife gets it, she afterwards tends to be a little happier and jovial because that is what she's needed, that is what she's told me. And because I'm alone most of the time, I guess I feel good about it, because when I come back home, I get a nice welcome. So it's like you get time to miss each other too. And as Jay said, you have the kids, you don't get much alone time, and really when I'm home, I want to be with the family. So yeah, I will put that on a B tier. It's not so important, but take time out every now and again.
Alright, so love for me is going to be on the A tier, right? So, because every marriage don't have love, believe it or not. Sometimes the love fades, sometimes they're faking it until they make it, or faking it until the kids move out. So for me, it's nice to be loved, especially for someone that I know I'm very different from a lot of people. And as my family always tells me and my wife, how can you be married to him? Whatever the case that means. But yeah, love is important, and I feel once you have that in your marriage, it's just icing on the cake. Sometimes it takes people time to grow and get there, depending on the type of culture you have, because some people, they have an arranged marriage, so they just happen to marry someone they don't know, or kind of know but don't like them really like that. So I find it to be very important, because the relationship is just that much better when you have that type of connection.
Well, some buddies, bring out the counter again, because we got the hat trick. Jay and I have agreed 3 times on this show, because I too place love on an A tier. And pretty much echoing what he said, that you have love, but is it the most important? No. For me, I place friendship on the S tier. So it's good to have love. Also, in my situation, my wife and I, we met, and probably the week before we found out our first child was going to be born, we did profess our love to one another, being in love, you know, that feeling. And after we had my son and we grew up to have a family, started to realize, hey, I'm glad that we loved each other before all this came about. And it's nice to have, because at least you know where you two stand, that, hey, I see my wife, I do love her. And I always say that to me it was kind of an arranged marriage, just because our son came, then we just wanted to be a family, so hey, we got married. And not fully knowing who we were, because it was less than a year. But it's turned out for the best. Of course, it's had its ups and downs like any other marriage. But at the end of it all, love, A tier, it sits right there. So hopefully for the rest of you, you place love right up there. A tier for sure for Jay and I. Well, some buddies, you done it again. You made it to the end of the show. So all we ask is, hey, you hit the like or hit the subscribe or both. It helps the channel out. And believe it or not, that smile you see on Jay gets even brighter and bigger off camera when he knows that you clicked on those too. And by the way, especially on this topic, all you somebodies, put on the comment, hey, do you agree with our list? Where do you place your categories? And did we miss one? So if we did, definitely put it down below in the comment section. We love to read them. And hey, we reply to them, definitely. So this is Jay. I am Mr. Mafuchi. We had fun doing this, and hey, we'll see you next time.
Later.
Hey somebodies, come check out my channel, where I give you my candid thoughts and opinions on various topics and weird news reports. So stop by for some tomfoolery and ballyhoo. Cute little guy, eh?